They're eating her! And then they're going to eat me! Oh my God!
Troll 2 is a supernatural comedy horror film released by Film Mirage on October 12, 1990. Based on a story written by Rosella Drudi and Claudio Fragasso, the film was written and directed by Claudio Fragasso. The film stars Michael Stevenson, George Hardy, Margot Prey, Connie McFarland, and Deborah Reed. Troll 2, despite the deceptive name, was a movie developed as a standalone horror film by the name of Goblins. But the film title was changed by executives hoping to cash in on the existence of 1986's Troll. And the rest, as they say, is history. Troll 2 is universally recognized as one of, if not the worst film ever made. Well, at least that we're aware of. And has developed a cult following in the years since its release, with drunken VHS audiences the world over reappraising it as the best worst movie ever made. Regardless of how you look at it, it seems everyone can agree that this movie is bad. So like any sane person, we have to figure out, why exactly is that? What separates this dumpster fire from the rest? In this review, we're clearing out the liquor cabinet and powering off our brains in order to give ourselves the best possible chance to make it to the finish line of this movie. The story begins with a ripoff of the Princess Bride storytelling session where Grandpa's convinced that goblins are real and he's brainwashing his little grandson into believing it too. Lucky for us, the kid mom shows up right in time to tell the kid that he's been eating out of the wrong cookie jar and hallucinated the whole thing. After that happens, the kid gets spooked by his sister's deadbeat boyfriend showing up and licking the bird crap off his window, before boyfriend promptly gets roasted by the kid's sister for being an extrovert. The following day, the family goes on vacation to the town of Nilbog, except instead of it being a vacation, they are literally swapping houses and lives with one of the farming families in that community, because they decided that watching Freaky Friday didn't quite tickle the itch of turning their lives upside down. The family is then greeted to a home-cooked meal laced with green Play-Doh, but right before the family can dig in, Grandpa Ghostman freezes time and reminds the kid that everyone at the table is over the age of 6. So in order to save that family from an embarrassing anecdote, the kid stops them from eating the food the only way he knows how. Piss. Not long afterwards, in a Winnebago far, far away, the boyfriend and his boys are waiting for the sister to magically fall into the boyfriend's arms. While they do that, one of the boys runs after a girl he sees frolicking for her life through a meadow. After a brief confrontation with the ugly cousins of the Ewoks from Return of the Jedi, the two take refuge in the house of the witch from Hansel and Gretel, at which point we bear witness to the most iconic moment in horror movie history. We then flash back to the family with Grandpa Ghostman dropping a Terminator reference before we see that this farm is based on the 20th century Ukraine model of agriculture. And oh my God, we're out of milk! So Dad and Kid go into town for some general store sushi, forgetting that it's time for Sunday morning mass. Kid wanders off and gets a face hug from the pastor. The sermon goers scream for ice cream while the kid screams at the ice cream, and the dad shows up just in time for any suspicious behavior to disappear quicker than a backyard Phineas and Ferb contraption. Also, two of the boyfriend's boys get turned into Kool-Aid by the witch lady. The sister finally shows up to the boyfriend's RV and gives him a hard time about his affinity for kissing the homies goodnight, just in time for Dad and son to pick her and the boyfriend up on their way back to the house, thus reducing what was once the boys' quartet to a solo act. When the family gets home, they find the entire town hosting a fiesta in their living room with enough sweets to restart an elephant's heart. The kid gets attacked while no one is looking, but is saved by Jack Grandpa Ghostman, at the last minute, and exposes the goblins for being flammable. And being goblins. The family then barricade themselves in the house and try to get Grandpa Ghostman to come back and throw a little divine intervention their way. Grandpa Ghostman proceeds to teleport little Timmy to the lair of the goblin kin and reveals to him that he can destroy the magic stone that powers the furry horde with the power of germs. Witch Lady is then alerted to something being wrong when her popcorn sales pitch with the last of the Lost Boys ends in her makeup taking to her face, so she goes to try and stop the kid from sticking his paws all over her special stones. Just as all hope seems lost, Tiny Tim remembers the secret weapon his grandpa left for him for his darkest hour.
A double-decker bologna sandwich!
The rest of the family magically shows up and help Tim Boy by rubbing their own sweaty palms on the witch's seance rocks, which leads all of the goblins in the vicinity to have a Raiders of the Lost Ark style exit. In the final moments of the movie, the family does what they should have done at the start of the movie and go home, only for the mom to eat a Granny Smith apple and get reduced to mush, while the kid screams helplessly, knowing that this means he'll have to do a sequel to this cinematic milestone. You know, I probably could have given a serious synopsis regarding the events of this movie, but frankly, that would be doing it a disservice. The only thing that needs to be said about whether the reviews from yesteryear shed this movie in an appropriate light is this.
You were right. You were right about me.
The pacing of this movie is about as smooth as a stoned 14-year-old driving a pick-and-pull 2001 Honda Civic. 1 minute you're watching cinematic history be made with acting that will be remembered for generations. Then you get to listen to the kid complaining about the house for 5 seconds before flashing to the sister having a big girls don't cry pep talk with her mirror about how her boyfriend is an extrovert. Really a masterful take on telling us everything we need to know about this movie and the mysteries surrounding the town of Nilbog. It's goblins spelled backwards, guys. Super subtle detail I wanted to point out. You never would get it otherwise. The dialogue of this movie is comparable to those video game NPCs telegraphing their attacks when you're in a fight with them. You always know what's happening and what's gonna happen because everyone won't shut up about it. Honestly makes me feel stupid telling you that secret about Nilbog earlier because I just remembered that whiny little bastard Timmy yelled it into the camera and beat me to the punch. Always remember, script writers, when in doubt, just pretend I'm drunk and haven't been paying attention to a word you're saying. Oh, wait a minute. The acting here is actually pretty impressive when you get past the realization you've seen cardboard cutouts in shop windows give more convincing performances. Honestly, it's amazing there's any acting in this movie at all. But thank God there is, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to appreciate the depth and complexity of musings like this.
We need time for some things to happen.
The soundtrack is by far the most incredible feature on display here, giving you a sense of atmosphere and setting like you're feeding tokens to a 90s arcade cabinet in the back room of the discount movie theater that should have been closed years ago because of the asbestos in the walls. And the fact you get to hear it every time this movie needs to insert a soundtrack in a scene. What else can I really say about this gem of cinematic history? I actually have something for this. How am I going to finish this video if I can't pad my... There we are. It is the most impactful story about family and goodness your brain will ever comprehend. And by impactful, I of course mean through the amount of time you will spend rubbing your temples in disapproval. The goblin costumes show John Carpenter levels of craftiness, and that I wouldn't be surprised if they were just a bunch of fake fur superglued to a bunch of masks of William Shatner's face. And the ADR for this movie? Where we're going, we don't need ADR. Okay, let's be real. None of you are actually going to be insane or inebriated enough to ever willingly watch this dumpster fire, and my vocal cords are tired of talking about it. Final rating's 1.5 out of 10. You might laugh at how dumb it all is once in a while, but you need the patience of Jesus, and or some form of physical restraint, to force yourself to watch all 1.5 hours of this insanity. Just take Tommy Wiseau's advice and watch The Room instead. In theaters. At least twice.
And that will be it for today. Thank you all for stopping by. If for whatever reason you enjoyed what you saw today, consider sticking around, maybe leaving a like or subscribing if you wish. And if you have any recommendations for movies you want to see reviewed in the future, be sure to drop those down in the comments. There's plenty more to come, so if that's something you care about, I'll see you when I see you.